Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have some super exciting figures to take a look at. A few figures that I know many people really want to get a look at, and we have ourselves the newest release from Nanmu of their Tyrannosaurus Rex. And you can see we have one box here, but we actually have all three variants. I just didn't bring all three boxes in because they're too big and they wouldn't all fit in screen at the same time. But you can see this one here is 2.0, which is obviously the second version. Actually, there's quite a few Tyrannosaurs that have come out now from Nanmu. You know, there's like the original female, then there was a male version, and now there's this version. So and there's numerous different paint variants of all of those. So quite a lot going on when it comes to T-Rex, but that is the standard version of this figure, the kind of Jurassic Park Rexy sort of paint scheme. Here on the front of the box, you can see some really nice imagery of the T-Rex, kind of with like a sunset thing going on or something behind it. Looks like maybe a little more than a sunset, almost looks like the end of the world back there, but it looks really cool. Definitely some beautiful artwork. And then if we flip it up this way, there you can see now which figure it is exactly that is contained within this particular box, which we can see would be the, female Rex variant, the, Rexy version of this figure. Not really a whole lot else going on the box, besides, of course, one more image here on the back, but pretty much your standard when it comes to a Nanmu box currently. Then we've got what I might be most excited about, the Bloody Queen, which would be the Red Rex version, if you can call it like the Kenner style, or you can call it the novel version, whatever you want to call it. We have a Red Rex in this line, in this wave of Tyrannosaurs as well. You can see the box art here on the front looks pretty much the same, but honestly it looks like it actually might have the Red Rex coloration on this. It's just a little hard to tell for sure, but it's pretty much the same style of artwork here on the front of the box. And then of course, once you flip it up, you can now see a nice sneak peek of the model itself and how absolutely incredible it looks. And then if you flip it up again, it's now upside down, but we'll go ahead and turn it around. You can also see the sides have like colors that kind of match with the dinosaur within. But there you go, you can now see the box and the image on the back of the box, and basically the really nice full body image of this T-Rex. And of course, the final version, which would be the male Rex color variant. You can see T-Rex Bucks Camouflage. So we have a male color scheme in this line as well. And you can definitely see that now the Rex has that male coloration there. And I like that Nanmu does that. There's never any laziness when it comes to a Nanmu model, because they always go, even when it comes to the boxes, they go above and beyond to give you the best product. Just by simply switching the coloration of the T-Rex just shows, in my opinion, their dedication to giving you a great product all around. And then here on the underside, you flip it up and you can now get a sneak peek of the figure, of the paint scheme, everything that's going on with it. It looks incredible. I'm a massive fan of the Buck Rex, so definitely very excited to have that sort of paint scheme version here in this set of figures. And then if we turn it around, you can now see again the back of the box as well. And then once you open the boxes, which I've just opened all three, you can see included within are our usual standard art cards. And what's cool is each art card does come, again, with the coloration of the T-Rex that is included. So you have, the regular Rexy color scheme for her, you have the Red Rex color scheme on that one, and then the male Rex color scheme for this one. So you've got all three. And then once you turn it around, you have the incredibly cool hand-drawn images here and stuff. You can see the back of the art card is the same all around. You're really not going to find any difference or anything with that, but I love this side. I always have been a massive fan of the kind of hand-drawn sort of images that they include. Just beautiful, beautiful artwork. And then also, we have this. We've got ourselves kind of like a little maquette-style version of the T-Rex, but it's miniature. Now, Nanmu has been kind of including small humans and stuff for quite a period of time. They've given us a small Parasaurolophus. We now have a small version of the T-Rex, and if you get the DX versions of each, that come with the base and everything, you get one of these small T-Rex in each and every version. So no matter what one you get, as long as you're getting the DX version, you'll get one of these small sort of maquette-style Tyrannosaurs. So that leaves me with three, which means I'm probably going to have to repaint some of these at some point. And then we've got the Tyrannosaurs themselves. Straight away, there's the base for the Rexy version. You can see, again, the base basically replicates kind of like a broken floor, but we also have, some bones laying around, which sort of gives you the look of the visitor center where the final scene takes place in Jurassic Park, and also where this pose comes from, because you can see, once we bring it in and put it on the base, we've got ourselves the Tyrannosaurus Rex in that kind of when dinosaurs ruled the earth pose, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. They really, really did a very good job on the paintwork of this one. I was a little concerned because a few images I had seen of other people, honestly, I don't know if it's just their lighting or what, but it looked like the coloration was just too soft for my liking. But having it here in person, that is absolutely not the case. They completely nailed it as far as what I would say the coloration of this T-Rex looked like from the promo images to the final product. It looks, honestly, I would say even better. It really does look very, very nice. But we also have, if we push this one to the back and get it out of the way, the green variant as well, which is obviously the more male variant, and that one as well looks really nice. Again, Nanmu absolutely knocking it out of the park when it comes to their paint apps. Their paint apps just look so good continuously. Definitely a very nice looking version of the male Rex as well. And then we'll go ahead and move them both here kind of over so we can bring in the final one, which is this one. In other words, the Red Rex variant. And that one, wow, that is definitely my favorite of the group. There is definitely no competition when it comes to that. And that's pretty impressive because, again, I'm probably the biggest fan of the male Rex coloration in the Jurassic Park franchise. I've just always loved that color. But the fact that we have that, kind of novel style Tyrannosaurus here in a really high quality model, and not only that, with the iconic kind of when dinosaurs ruled the earth pose, is super, super awesome, and it's incredibly well done. The coloration and paint apps on that look fantastic. So again, if we move this back, get a nice wide shot of everyone, there you can kind of see them all. Maybe if we move this one in a little bit, you can see that we now have all three variants of this Tyrannosaurus here to take a look at. This has gone on pretty long already, just kind of introducing the three of them. So, as always, let's jump to a closer look at all three right now. So, starting up here at the head sculpt of the Rexy version, the female Tyrannosaur version from Jurassic Park, you can see sculpt-wise, this thing is incredible. Like, absolutely phenomenal when it comes to the fine detail, the skin texture, everything on this looks beyond beautiful. But you can see, again, we've got lots of really nice coloration here in the face. You've got a nice darker tone there around the eye, all kinds of nice skin wrinkles and skin folds there kind of in the eye, just showing sort of movement in the face. You've got all sorts of variations of browns as well. You've got a nice light coloration here in the palette that kind of leads all through the face here. Very nice naturalistic coloration, and also quite reminiscent to what you do see on Rexy in Jurassic Park. We have the darker brown leading down through the snout. You've got a few areas of like a black kind of outlining part of the jawline there, and again, all of the paintwork looks extremely smooth and very, very lifelike. You also have, of course, the mouth open wide here. You can see quite a bit of variation of color here on the skin flaps at the side of the mouth, which looks really impressive, extremely lifelike as well. Like, it looks genuinely alive right there, and that gloss coat giving it that nice kind of saliva-like look is definitely the icing on the cake in that area. You can see the teeth, of course, have that extremely realistic appearance that you always find on Nanmu models. They just use this perfect material to give the teeth a very real look. Like, they genuinely, as the T-Rex's foot kicks the camera, but they genuinely look like a living animal's teeth consistently, and it's just so nice to look at when it comes to a model like this, because it really just adds another level of realism you otherwise wouldn't have if you just kind of painted the teeth. You can see there is some like variation. They've given like a brown wash to the teeth, especially as you get closer to the gum line, and that helps to add even more realism, I think, to the model overall. You can also see, as far as the lower jaw goes, all of that scale detail is perfectly highlighted with variations of color. I don't know if they dry brushed that on, kind of looks like they have, but there's also a nice light wash there, kind of running through that darker tone, running along the jawline. Extremely very impressive paintwork. And if you look at the inside of the mouth, you've got the tongue sculpted out in there, very nice texturing and color variation even to the tongue itself. And then as you move through the course of the inside of the mouth, you can kind of make out the throat back there. And man, is that ever impressive sculpt and fine detail, as well as paintwork there on the inside of the mouth. Man, is that good. Nanmu absolutely did a fantastic job on this, and you can see the, again, gloss coat through the course of the inside of the mouth, making it look extremely realistic. As you move up here to the top of the head, you can also see that they've dry brushed a lot of the detail out quite nicely, which helps to highlight all of that skin texture up here on the top of the head. As you begin to lead down into the neck, you can see the spinal column here on the back of the T-Rex. You can also see that we start to pick up that striping effect that you do see on Rexy, so some really nice subtle striping moving down the course of the back. There's also been a nice dry brushing to highlight all of the detail moving down the course of the back, which allows a lot of the lighter browns to kind of creep through those areas, but also just generally to kind of darken the coloration, the upper part of the color of the T-Rex. As you move down here through the side of the neck, you again have that darker tone up here, very smooth transition to this lighter brown, and then an even smoother transition to some lighter tones of the underside of the neck and throat. And the tail now is messing with the camera because the dinosaur curves in this direction, so like body parts are just consistently hitting the camera and the stand for the camera. You've got some nice, again, skin wrinkles and skin folds down here on the lower part of the neck. As you move back a little bit further here into the body, you can see again how nice and realistic the paint apps are. They look very, very nice. All sorts of variations of browns and stuff, and again, super smooth transitions back and forth. They always give you just the most realistic paint jobs possible, but you can see the skin texture as well. Honestly, is mind-blowing when you look at this T-Rex. Like, it's super well done. As we turn it, let the light hit it, you can see the rib cage right there. The arms are also sculpted in a very nice natural position, kind of held into the body. You've got some nice muscle definition moving down. Very nicely sculpted fingers and nicely painted nails. If my camera would focus on them, you can see the nails are painted with a nice glossy black. As we move back here a little bit further, you can see the hip bone here on the top of the leg. You can also see again that we've got those scoots running over the hip bone. As we move down, immense musculature here in the thigh. Again, look at how nice and naturalistic that paint application is and how we transition back and forth so smoothly between colors. Impressive is putting it mildly. We also have that dry brushing again here running down the front of the leg to darken that coloration. We've got the kneecap as well as the calf showing, and you can see how nice of a job they've done of even highlighting the skin texture there in the calf, you know, with that lighter tone, allowing that kind of variation of brown underneath to shine through. And then as we move down into the foot sculpt, that is about as picture perfect of a Jurassic Park T-Rex foot sculpt I think as you're going to find. You've got some nice scoots running down the front of the feet. You can see they've darkened those scoots with a variation of a black or a very dark brown. Kind of looks more like a black to me. You've got the lighter variations of browns there through the course of the foot, and you've also got some really nicely painted nails, again with a black, but there's also sort of a dry brushing over the black to highlight the nails, again giving you the most realistic paint job possible. And you can also see the dew claws are painted. And then as we move back up, you can see some nice skin wrinkles here stretching off of the tail with the thigh kind of leading forward. You definitely would see that. You've got more striping here again moving down the course of the tail, and a very, very strong curve to the tail because again that's how the T-Rex is positioned at the end of the film after it has just killed the raptors, and then the banner falls down. Again, this is pretty much exactly how you see that T-Rex posed, and you can see all of the sculpt, all of the paint looks incredible as you move out through the length of that tail. Moving along the underside of the Tyrannosaurus, you can again see they've done a very good job of adding in that lighter tone here through the underside, and right here in the stomach region you can see they did get the scale detail correct here. This is one area that many people miss when sculpting out a Jurassic Park T-Rex. They always kind of miss that. Mattel has done that mountains of times. In fact, I don't think that they've ever actually gotten that correct, but you can see Nanmu definitely nailed it when it comes to the appearance, to the scale detail of the underside of the stomach, and very impressive the entire way up when it comes to the fine detail and paintwork. Then looking at the opposing side of the head, it all looks fantastic over here, just like it did on the initial side. Man, that paintwork is so good. Specifically here in the face, I am in love with the paintwork that they've applied to the face of this T-Rex. You can also see the eyes are painted very nicely, given a nice gloss coat, so they look super realistic as well. And as we move back here, again, you're going to see pretty much the same style of paint, same style of sculpt, except for the skin has a little bit more of a stretching going on this side because the Rex has its head turned quite sharply to its left, so it would definitely be stretching the skin here on the right-hand side of the neck region, and they've definitely sculpted that out to show that. You can also see like tensing here in the neck as well as it's letting out that roar. As you move down here, you can definitely get a better look at the stomach because the leg now is trailing quite significantly, so it really opens up the stomach for us to see all of the impressive sculpt and detail as well as the paintwork. The arm is in a slightly different position over here compared to what we had seen on the initial side. The leg as well, again, because the leg is trailing a little bit, but you can see the muscle definition is absolutely shining over here on this side, just like it did on the initial side. The toes are sort of leaving the ground as the T-Rex kind of leans up. It's not like taking a step, it's just kind of leaning up, so the toes are kind of touching, but the foot has sort of lifted up off the ground a little bit. Again, super nice looking paintwork and sculpt work on the foot as well. And then we lead back up here again to the tail. As you lead out, you again have that very strong curve to the tail facing away from us. So that is an absolutely gorgeous Rexy model, easily one of the best I've ever seen. And then the base again shows off that sort of like busted and broken floor that we have here with the T-Rex footprint clearly has impacted the floor, cracked everything up. You've got all of the bones that have fallen as well. Impressive for sure when it comes to the sculpting and detailing aspect. You can see everything looks super realistic, and they've given this a nice wash, kind of like a brownish wash to highlight every ounce of detail on here. And I like that even on the bones they've given it like variation of color, just so it looks as realistic as it absolutely possibly can. And then here on the side, you can see the same impressive sculpt and paint like we see up on the upper part of this base. And then on the underside, you can again see 2.0 and perpetual curtain, so that lets you know which version of the T-Rex this base goes to. Now, every version of this T-Rex is the same sculpt, we just have different paintwork. So at this point moving forward, we really only need to go over the paintwork aspect. But you can see when it comes to a male Tyrannosaurus in the Jurassic Park franchise, they definitely captured the likeness quite nicely here for this version. And Nanmu themselves, when it comes to that male Tyrannosaurus, they have one of, if not the best versions of that male Rex out on the market, which we will compare with these later. But you can see this is obviously a female sculpt, but with the male coloration, which is also not the first time we've seen that in the Nanmu line. But you can see, again, we've got like some yellowish tones in the palette, yellow striping up here on the top of the snout. You've also got some yellows back here, and then all kinds of variations of greens as you move through. There's also been like some nice dry brushing that's been added to really highlight all of that skin texture. Same deal up here when it comes to those kind of scoots moving along the upper part of the snout. You can also see the eye is painted again in perfect fashion, given that extremely realistic gloss coat like we had seen on the Rexy version. Nice dry brushing down here. Look at how good that paintwork looks. That is absolutely gorgeous paintwork right there. That is very, very impressive. The inside of the mouth also sports, again, just the same style of paintwork, maybe some slightly different tones, but equally as realistic and lifelike. I actually think I might like the coloration of the tongue maybe even a little bit more on this one than the Rexy version. That just looks extremely realistic to me. But again, the same type of thing going on here when it comes to the inside of the mouth. You can see it is beyond words incredible in there when it comes to both the sculpt and paint. And then, of course, as you lead down the course of the back here of the male variant, you have the yellow that shows up here in like a striping effect. You've also got variations of greens as well as black, the kind of stripes in between, which is pretty reminiscent to what you do see on the Dinosaur in The Lost World Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park 3. But you can see that the black is kind of like a striping effect, but it stops, whereas it kind of should come down here a little bit and move along the side just a little bit, but it still looks pretty good as far as what they have applied here. But as you move down, you can again see all sorts of variations of greens and stuff. They've given lots of variation of color to this. As you can see, some nice dry brushing again to highlight all of the detail quite nicely. You can even see like some light brown tones there showing up in the stomach region, kind of shining there between the areas of the rib cage. And again, some more darker variations of greens as you move down into the hands. You can even see some variations of browns in the hands as well. You've got some nicely painted nails yet again. We do have kind of like a light white tone here for the underside of the T-Rex, but yet again a darker tone underneath that so that we highlight all of the detail perfectly. Moving back here into the thigh, you can again see some of those darker tones, those kind of like black or very dark gray tones in the front of the leg and how they kind of stripe back as they move down the course of the thigh. You can also see variations of greens and browns within those areas as we transition back to that light tone there, again for the back of the thigh and the underside. And you can see as we move down, we continue to have those darker variations, almost look like darker greens here, running down the front of the shin, down into the foot. You can again see all the scoots are highlighted with that darker tone, and you move down into the toenails. The nails again have a nice gloss coat to them, but also again a painting of black with a dry brushing over top. And then you lead back up into the tail, and you continue to have that sort of striping effect as you move out through the length of the tail. You can see, again, we follow that similar pattern to what we see through the rest of the figure moving out there. If we take a look at the opposing side of the face, again, that is absolutely classic. Look at how nice that looks. With the male Rex coloration, that is just such a cool visual. And then as you move close, again, you get a nice closer look at the actual paint application. You can continue to see how incredibly impressive it is. And then as you move down through the course of the neck, you again have that same style of paintwork and coloration to what we had seen on the initial side over here. A few kind of like spots and stuff showing up here and there, just to add even more color variation to this absolutely fantastic interpretation of this Tyrannosaurus. So the male Rex variant is honestly just as impressive as the female Rex variant. And again, we've got the base, and the base has the same sculpt, of course, just different coloration. We have a different variation of a gray, a little bit brighter look as far as this one goes, and it looks like we have a darker gray wash for this rather than the kind of brownish wash that we had seen on the other one. Also different tones of color for the bones, which is very cool. Again, showing that Nanmu always, again, gives you the most for your model. You always get difference in between each and every one. No laziness. They don't just give you the same base, times two. They completely repaint the base entirely. And then we've got this beauty, which this is clearly the Red Rex, aka the novel version, aka the Kenner Red Rex, whatever you want to term this. It is absolutely incredible. Look at the really nice paintwork. Very flashy here in the face with those kind of reddish tones, and then you've got that black kind of playing off of those reddish tones so perfectly with that striping effect. You can see some dry brushing has been applied to make sure we darken the coloration up here on the top of the head and highlight all of the scale detail. Actually looks like maybe it's just a dark wash that's been applied really nicely up there. You can again see some very impressive paintwork here for the lower jaw. Again, nice washes have been applied there as well to highlight all of that detail. The eye is painted to perfection yet again, also again given that nice gloss coat. You can see the inside of the mouth sports a bit of a darker look on this one, kind of more like reddish and purplish tones used, but look at all the color variation, even in the tongue. So impressive when it comes to the paintwork here, and you can see the inside of the mouth entirely has like a bit of a darker look compared to a lot of the others. Even the same here for the side of the mouth where it's opening and stretching the skin. You can see very dark variations of purples, but some lighter tones as well. And then as you move down the course of the body, you again have that sort of patterning and that striping that picks up and moves through. All the really nice variations of reds here as you move down, but you've also got like some light dry brushing in certain areas of alternate tones of color. And as you move down, you can see again variation of color is very abundant through this one, as you don't just have those reddish tones. You can see alternate tones of like browns and even other variations of reds and stuff moving through. It almost looks like we even have yellows and stuff here and there, which you can see actually the lower jaw moving into the throat also features some like yellowish greens right there as you move down. Again, darkening here in the paintwork of the arms as you move closer to the hands. Same style of paintwork, though, for the nails, but definitely very different when it comes to the coloration of the arms. And as we move through, look at how nice and natural the actual striping and patterning is. You know, when it comes to a patterning like this, I think it's very easy to make it look like paint on a figure, whereas Nanmu does such a great job of applying it so it looks extremely smooth and natural moving through the entire body. And as you move back here, again, we continue to have all of that really cool darker patterning and striping as you move down the course of the thigh, again transitioning to those lighter tones, those kind of yellowish green tones there on the back of the thigh, moving down. Again, some darker tones here running down the front of the shin, down into the foot. You can see we've highlighted the scoots of the foot with a lighter tone, which is a bit different than we had seen on all of the others. And this time the nails actually start out with a black and kind of transition to a variation of like a brown as you move out toward the tips of the nails. And then again, you kind of lead back up here. You've got more of that patterning as you move out through the length of this extremely nicely curled tail here, again for the Rex. The underside sports that kind of light tone here moving through with the reddish sort of brown tone on the underside of that, again, so that we highlight all of the sculpt and detail beautifully. You can see even darker tones have been nicely applied here to the undersides of the legs, making sure that the paintwork looks nice and precise and consistent everywhere. And you can see again the other side of the head looks phenomenal. It just looks so cool to see a high quality version of this paint scheme. I've just never seen something like this released by anyone before. And then as you move back, you can again pick out all of the variation of color. You can see in between all of the creases there in the skin of the neck, all of those cracks and crevices. You can even see darker variations of paintwork that's been added as you move down again. It looks pretty much the same as it did on the initial side here. On this side, all sorts of variation again of color transitioning here with the different reds and stuff. You've got the nice patterning moving down again through the course of the leg. Look how nice that paintwork is. It just honestly is unreal. This is definitely my favorite version, not just I would say of this sculpt. I would say this might be my favorite Nanmu Tyrannosaurus of all time. It is just so unbelievably awesome. And then when it comes to the Red Rex, or the Bloody Queen, whatever you want to call it, base, you can see we basically just have browns and stuff for the base, which is a bit different than the others as they all had grays. This time we have variations of browns and a nice dark wash. And again, the bones are definitely painted with a different tone of color compared to what we had seen on the first two. So definitely awesome all around. No matter which variant you go with, they are all incredible. And just in case you were wondering, yes, the models can stand perfectly fine on their own. Of course, they do have the tail here that they would lean on, so, you know, that's definitely going to help with the balance of the figure. But you can see absolutely no standing issues as far as this one goes. You can see it just kind of flops right back into place. So the base is, you know, also awesome to have, but if you go for the standard version, you're going to have a perfectly standing Tyrannosaurus regardless. Now, as far as a size goes, we'll measure the male variant for a length from the snout to the tail. I would say right around a foot, so about 12 inches or about 30.5 centimeters. Now, of course, the size of the T-Rex would be quite a bit longer if it wasn't curled in the position that it's curled in. But as far as a height goes, to the top of the head, about 7.25 inches, actually maybe to the snout, just under 7.5 inches or around 19 centimeters. Now, this is the size of the T-Rex off of the base. If it were on the base, of course, it's going to be a little bit taller than that. But for a size comparison, I'm going to take these other figures out of here, just keep one in, because a comparison with all of them, there's just going to be way too much going on in screen. So we'll get all the other ones out of here, and then we'll take a look at a comparison. There is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our newest version of the Nanmu Tyrannosaurus. And what's cool is when you look at Mr. Papo T-Rex, if we actually open his mouth, they look very similar, because obviously the Papo T-Rex was very Jurassic Park based, and clearly based also on the, you know, same scene that the Nanmu version here is based off of. Obviously the Nanmu version looks way better, but it's still cool to see old versus new when it comes to a T-Rex model in this sort of pose. But obviously a massive size difference here between the Nanmu Rex and every other figure here next to it. We've also got a Mattel Velociraptor and Mattel Dilophosaurus here stepping in next to the Tyrannosaurus for yet another comparison. And then continuing with the randoms, we have the Schleich Diabloceratops, Safari LTDU Tyrannus, and Collect a Deluxe Dimetrodon next to our T-Rex. And then when it comes to a very interesting comparison, we have the male Rex that was released by Nanmu quite a ways back next to the male Rex color variant of this newest version of Tyrannosaurs. And you can see they're pretty darn similar in size, definitely right there in the same similar size range as a whole. But for a comparison that I just want to see next to the male Rex, we have the Rexy version, aka the female Tyrannosaurus next to the male. Now we have a female sculpt with the male sculpt, so it's super cool, I think, just to see these two together to kind of give you an idea of what the male and female look like next to each other here when it comes to the different Nanmu releases, at least when it comes to the newest version of the female anyway. Then we've got a comparison here with the older female variant next to the newer female, and it's pretty cool to see these two together and see how they size up next to each other. Pretty similar in size, I would say, so if you happen to have the older one, you'll definitely have a good idea of the size of the newer one, but it's also just cool to see, a little bit of difference when it comes to the paint apps and the coloration. I don't know for sure which one I would say I like more. I would say probably actually the newer one. I think the newer one is definitely a little bit closer to what we see on Rexy in the films. I think I like the paintwork for sure of the face of the newer one, a lot more, but both really are incredible Tyrannosaurs. And just in case you don't have any of the figures we've seen so far in this video, I did bring this one in just for one final review comparison, as we have the Papo running T-Rex next to the Nanmu newest version of the T-Rex, the 2.0 version, and you can see again, obviously a massive size difference between these two figures. So this brand new Nanmu female Tyrannosaurus 2.0 is incredible, absolutely phenomenal. If you are looking for that final scene version of a T-Rex from Jurassic Park, you really want to add one to your collection, this is an absolutely incredible one to go with. I know there are a lot of those out there that, some of these higher end statue companies have made, but if you want one that actually has a good reasonable price and incredibly impressive quality, probably even better paintwork than what you see on those, higher end statue companies, this is definitely the way to go. This Nanmu version looks so good when it comes to the sculpt. The sculpt is phenomenal, definitely recreating Rexy in her prime, and on top of that, again, taking probably her most iconic moment and bringing it to life here with this model. On top of that, you have an incredible paint application on her, definitely very nice and pretty darn faithful looking to what you see in the film. I feel like they really have improved overall when it comes to their paint apps quite significantly from the original release up until now, just generally capturing the likeness of this T-Rex a lot better, especially in the face. The paintwork in the face is incredible on this. But on top of that, you don't just have that one version, you've also got other paint variants, as you also have that kind of male paint variant, which is beyond awesome to have this kind of final scene of Jurassic Park version T-Rex, but with the male coloration. It's just so cool to have that because it's so different and not something, honestly, I ever even thought of before. How neat would it have been if Rexy had been a male and you saw, the male Rex at the end of the film and stuff. It's just really cool to have that kind of paint variant of it, and it looks great. Again, very nice paint apps on that one as well, but it doesn't just stop there because you also have the Bloody Queen version, aka the Red Rex novel version, the Kenner version. However you are familiar with that particular color scheme on the T-Rex, it looks so unreasonably awesome here in person. And honestly, it's not something I ever in a million years expected to own unless I personally took a dinosaur model and painted it that way. So the fact that Nanmu has actually released one is incredibly cool, and they did a really, really good job on this. The paint apps are pretty much exactly as I would like them to be. Actually, I would say probably even better than I was expecting them to be, and that's definitely a great compliment toward Nanmu. They did a very good job on this, and I think it looks even better here in person than it did on the original promo pictures, and quite a bit of variation of color. You just can't quite grasp how much depth there is to the paint jobs, I think, when it comes to their original promo images. It's not till you get a chance to see the models in person that you can really appreciate how lifelike and realistic they are, and that is exactly the case for this Red Rex version. It is beyond words incredible. And then there's also the base. The base very nicely, captures the look and feel of the visitor center. I like the fact that they've given each different variant a different color, and not only a different color to the base, but the bones as well. So of course, trying to give you the best possible product no matter which way you go. So as a whole, these are all must-haves. Like, if you're looking for just one, I really do not know which one to suggest. My personal favorite, I will say, is the Red Rex, but they're all honestly incredible. I feel like I couldn't have just purchased one. I had to get all three because all three are just so beautiful. So again, if you're looking to buy just one, good luck making that decision. Regardless, if you are interested in grabbing them, I will include a link in the description to where I purchased mine from Lana Time Shop. So make sure you check that link in the description. Go grab yourself some incredible Nanmu Tyrannosaurs, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.